Hello and welcome. Today I'd like to talk about how to release heavy emotions. There's been so much coming up for all of us, and I really feel called to share a little bit of what's happened to me this week because I know that it may help somebody else out there. So very often when we have very heavy emotions, it's really hard to process them, right? I mean, we pretty much are drowning in these emotions. And the reason for this is we haven't released them, we haven't felt them. Emotions are meant to be a very quick and brief experience. They are an energy that is coming to you in a situation and asking to be transmuted through you. But when something happens and it's so big and overwhelming for us that we don't know how to process it, or it's a dark, heavy emotion, we don't know what to do with it, what we often do is we clench up and we go, oh, I don't want to feel that emotion, thanks very much. And so we shove it down and we pretend that it's not there. But unfortunately, this doesn't get rid of the emotion. Far from it. That emotion will stay within you until you actually release it, until you feel it. To do this, you need to acknowledge it. You need to know that it's there. And for so long, we can go along our daily lives with nothing much going on and we think everything's okay, and then suddenly out of nowhere we'll get triggered. And what's happening there is that there's a little bit of that emotion stuck within us that an outside event has triggered. What that means is it's actually stirred it up, and it's like this boiling pot, and we now are embroiled in this emotion, and it's very uncomfortable. And what that tells us, of course, is that there's a fragment of that emotion stuck within us. And so this isn't a curse, it's not something to fear. That emotion isn't trying to hurt us. What it's trying to do, that event is actually trying to show us that there's a fragment of that emotion within us and asking us, can we release this now? Will you transmute me? Will you send me back through your body to the earth to be transmuted? And when you do this, of course, fresh energy can flow in. Now, this week, a lot of emotions came up for me, which were really unexpected. And I was feeling a lot of hurt and betrayal and rejection. And when I paused for a moment and I decided I would have a look at these emotions and try and figure out what the core source of them was, what I realized was it was stemming from an event that happened in my 20s. Now, the event was rejection that I suffered through some friends and through a relationship, my first big relationship. But this was 20 years ago. And this is the key here. You see, your heart doesn't care how long ago it was. It just wants to be heard. And so as long as you repress those emotions they will remain in your body. Even 20 years ago, even this relationship from 20 years ago was finally bubbling to the surface and saying, hey, are you going to address me? Can you look at this, please? Can we please let go of this now? And when I really sat with it for a minute and I dived in, I was able to process those emotions. But first I'd like to share with you a little bit about the story because perhaps you can relate. When I was in my 20s, I had my first big romance. It actually started when I was 18, and I had a relationship with a beautiful soul for 5 years. And alongside this relationship, I had a very close friendship with a group of friends. What happened was we were all couples, we all knew each other, and we used to do everything together. And I felt very supported and seen and connected in this friendship group. And as I got to sort of my early 20s, I had this adventurous spirit, and I really wanted to go overseas and explore what the world had to offer. And I was sort of saying to my boyfriend, come on, let's go and do this, it's going to be amazing, let's go exploring, there's so much in the world to see. And he was reticent, he didn't want to go. And he made lots of different reasons and excuses for this. Some of the things he said were, oh no, I'm working for my dad and I'm studying, it's just really not the right time. And so I accepted that. And I was still quietly putting away money to go overseas eventually myself. And then it came time for his birthday. And it was also time for one of the couple's birthdays too. And so I decided I would throw this big party, and they would both be the guests of honor. And I pretty much threw all my wage at it. I was earning a really small wage at that point, and I used most of what I had to create this beautiful event for them. And it really was a lovely night, and I enjoyed it so much. But there was a hidden part to the story. The birthday gifts that my boyfriend was given from his family and from our close friends were hidden from me. I didn't know that he was given a sleeping bag, that he was given a backpack, a travel wallet, all of these things. And the day after the party, he came to me and he said, well, I'm actually going overseas in 2 days. I'm going on Friday, I'm going to go overseas to Australia. And it took me completely by surprise, because I had been sort of trying to persuade him to go overseas with me. I'd been inviting him, getting him excited about going to Europe with me. And he'd been saying the whole time, no, I'm not interested in going overseas, no. And of course, it was quite a slap in the face. And I don't know the reason for this, but I did feel a lot of rejection. And I also felt on top of that a lot of betrayal, because I felt that my friend group, who I was so close with, had known about the event. They'd known that he was going overseas. And the whole time I was giving this party, I felt like they were laughing behind my back. And it was an extremely hurtful situation. And I remember when I came back from the airport, my mother said to me, you know, I'm not surprised he left you. You were never good enough for him. I internalized all of this. I internalized the shame and the guilt, the rejection and the betrayal, and I really didn't allow myself to feel it. I just told myself, okay, you're okay, just get on with life, get your shit together, you're going overseas, you can make a go of this, and you can do it by yourself. And I guess I did. I went overseas, I had an amazing time, it opened my eyes to the world, and it was a positive experience. But for 20 years, I had that experience, those emotions trapped within me. And I never looked at them. That was until this week, where suddenly out of nowhere, they were bubbling up. I had all these feelings of rejection and betrayal and hurt, and I couldn't figure it out. I didn't know where it was coming from, until I realized that I was thinking about this one event that I hadn't processed. And this is what happens with hurt and betrayal and painful emotions. If we don't look at them and process them at the time, we simply store them. And they remain within us, and they poison every layer of your life, every experience. That little seed of energy within you, of the hurt or the unprocessed emotion, is like a magnet. And what it does is it draws in or manifests other experiences in the external for you to see that pain. And this isn't a curse. It's doing this because the universe is trying to show you that you have an unhelpful emotion stuck within you. And it's saying, hey, come on, let's work on this. Let's release this. This isn't for your highest good. And as soon as you release that emotion, a more positive and uplifting vibration can flow in. And so you see, when I sat with this and I really processed the emotion, I was able to release it. And I have a little exercise for you that you can try, which can really help you with this. So firstly, Archangel Muriel is the angel who helps us to process difficult emotions. And so I called her in and I just said to her, Archangel Muriel, please help me to understand the core of these emotions. Help me to get to the bottom of it, because I want to understand. I want to get the wisdom from this learning, from this situation. And then I want to release this painful emotion so something more aligned can flow in. And so I did this, and the other thing that I did was I allowed myself to speak about it. So today I'd like to give you an exercise that you can do, which is really simple and helps you move those stagnant emotions out of your body. Now, it wasn't possible for me to talk directly to my boyfriend, my ex-boyfriend. It was 20 years. 20 years had passed, right? And it would be really weird for me to suddenly appear in his life in this way. But I needed to express myself. I needed to express those emotions because they were holding me back. And so what I did was I wrote a letter to his soul. Without any intention of posting this letter, I wrote down everything that occurred, how I felt, how I never got to express my feelings, and the hurt and the rejection and the betrayal that I had felt in that time, and how I'd internalized it all, and how what my mother had said had become my inner voice. That I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't worthy, that I was less than. And this had really impacted my life. For the last 20 years, it had impacted my life. And that emotion had stayed stuck within me all this time. And now it really was time for it to come out. And so I wrote this letter. And when I'd finished writing it, I read it out loud. And that helped me to remove that stuck emotion that was stuck within me, that heaviness, and get it out, speak it, put it on paper, validate my feelings. And this is something that you can do. It's a really simple and easy trick, a little exercise that you can do which really helps you express those stuck emotions. And then once I'd read it out, I tore the letter up into little bits and I chose to throw it in the sea and let that energy go, release it, and allow it to be transmuted back to the earth. Allow it to be cleansed and purified. And the weight that lifted off my shoulders when I did that was just so beautiful. And so if you're struggling with deep emotions, with difficult emotions this week, if your self-confidence has really taken a hit, if you feel less than, if you feel unworthy, if you've been rejected, if you've been betrayed, I invite you to give this little exercise a go. Because behind that emotion, on the other side of that experience, there is a gift for you. And when you alchemize the wisdom contained within that lesson, you can rise. My name is Nicolene. I am the Flame Keeper. I am an empowerment coach, and my job is to help you heal from trauma and rebuild your confidence. If you're interested, please get in touch with me. I offer a free breakthrough call where we can speak one-on-one. Thank you for listening. I love you.